there, I'm Clarence Waldron. Welcome back to another Black Muse. Tonight's guest is Keith Henderson, noted guitarist, hit songwriter, and a multi-instrumentalist. He has worked with everybody in the business, including Anita Baker, The Emotions, Gene Chandler, Ramsey Lewis, and so many more. But I'm going to stop and let him tell his story. Hey, Keith, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. And how are you?
I'm doing very well, doing very well. And you work with so many greats. I will name a few and ask you to briefly discuss what project you were working on at that time. Sort of, let's go like behind the music. Let's say the emotion. Let's start with the emotions. What big project did you work on for them, with them?
Well, the first project that I was involved with them was they were signed to Columbia Records with Maurice White, and which was Arc Records, and his record label, but they're distributed by Columbia, CBS. So I was honored enough to co-write a song with Wanda Hutchinson of The Emotions and bass player that was with The Emotions at the time, Lafayette Evans, called Rejoice. And that was their second album on Columbia. And it was actually it was the multi-platinum album. So that was my biggest thing that happened first with Emotions. Then the next album, and I only co-wrote that song for that album, and another song, Love Was Happening, actually also. I co-wrote that with Sheila Hutchinson, who was also one of the Emotions. And the next album project was called Sunbeams. And I actually wrote a song on that album called me and the Emotions brother, Joe Hutchinson, co-wrote a song called Love Is Right On. And I also got a chance to play on that album and be in the studio with the great Maurice White producing. And me and my band members, Donzel Davis, who played drums, Terry Marshall, who played keyboards, and bass player named Charles Harsh, which everybody called Chuckleluck. We played on that album, and guitarist named Marlo Henderson, excellent session guitarist out of LA, who taught me a whole lot about recording during that session. So that was the next biggest thing that I did with the two biggest things that I did with the Emotions, besides working with them for many years.
Anita Baker.
Okay, well, Anita Baker, I had a buddy that played guitar out of Chicago named Ray Fuller, who was like a little brother to me. And I used to, when he lived in Chicago, I used to send all the gigs I couldn't do to Ray. And so Ray moved to LA, and Ray started getting on some real big, nice gigs. So he got on the Anita Baker gig, and as music director and guitarist. So while he was with her, he got offered to go with Whitney Houston. So he left Anita to go with Whitney, and he hooked me up to take his place with Anita Baker as guitarist. And that was the compositions tour. And it was toward the end of the tour, like probably the last 3 months. And that was a real nice experience, because Anita at the time, she was, at the top of her game. She was hot, and just everything about the tour was class A, top of the line. Accommodations, pay, and just everything about it was top of the line. She had, very professional people working with her, and the musicians, top of the line musicians, guys that are been in the industry and have done many things, are still doing things right now that are great in the industry. So it was a great thing for me to be included in that part, of that tour. And I learned a lot on that tour. One of my buddies was playing also, a bass player named Larry Compel, who also was instrumental in getting me on the gig. So it was a great time for me.
How about Ramsey Lewis?
Well, Ramsey, I had started playing on some of Ramsey's albums back in the 80s. And so I mainly did a lot, played on, a few of his albums. Then I got a chance to play with him a few times as well, live. And Ramsey was a very, very great learning experience playing with Ramsey, because Ramsey had this thing about dynamics, musical dynamics, and he would have you playing so low that you almost wasn't heard, but at the same time you had to be felt, and still you need to feel the dynamics of the music, and music had to be lively. Even though you're playing real low, you still have to play and make it happen. So I learned a lot about playing dynamically with Ramsey Lewis, and he was somewhat of a godfather to me. He would give me advice and different things, as he did a lot of Chicago musicians. He mentored a lot of musicians out of Chicago. So, and I had the honor of playing on, he had a project called Urban Nights, and they put out a song called Sweet Home, remake called Sweet Home Chicago. And I had the honor of playing on that with Ramsey, and playing the melody of the song with him on that. And that was one of Urban Nights' biggest hits. So that was a great honor.
How about the Shallites?
The Shallites go way back into the 70s. The Shallites, they had a band that played behind them called the Dynamic Sounds Orchestra. And that Dynamic Sounds was a very popular band back in the day. And all the horn players grew up in my neighborhood. So I was just starting to play. And I used to go watch them rehearse at my middle school. We all went to the same middle and grammar schools together. And they actually, the Shallites hired them to play behind them. So I should go watch their rehearsals. And they left the country very young, still in high school, go overseas with the Shallites. And so my affiliation with the Shallites from then was I was used to watch their band rehearse all the time, and I learned a lot from that. Then eventually I met Marshall and the Shallites Eugene record, and played on some of their recordings in the studio as well. And then later on in the late 80s, I had the honor of recording an album on the Shallites at my studio. I had a studio set up, and they did an album called Help Wanted. And they did it at my studio, so I recorded and co-produced it, and wrote a song on the album called All My Love. But over the years, I knew Marshall and Eugene and Squirrel, those guys. So they were like, they were mentors and godfathers to me. And I, to this day, I still talk to Marshall, and he's, Marshall has got a star on Hollywood and all of that, and he's still out here working, doing his thing, and so yeah. My experience with them was a great one as well.
Now, the Manhattans. I didn't know that you worked with the Manhattans.
Well, I recorded on one of their albums. I think I played on a song on one of their albums. That was my extent of working with them. I didn't work with them per se a whole lot, but I think I played on one of their songs on one of their albums because there's a guy named Leo Graham, rest in peace, but he was a songwriter producer, and him and a guy named Paul Richmond, who's also a songwriter, producer, musician. They wrote some songs. Actually, Paul wrote one of their biggest hits, Shining Star, You're My Shining Star. Paul Richmond wrote that. So, he was a good friend of mine that I go way back with as well. And great writer, great musician, great artist himself. And they were producing some songs on Manhattans, and I played on one or two songs maybe. So that was my affiliation with the Manhattans. But touring with the Emotions on these different old school R&B group tours, like the Soul 70s tour, the Manhattans, they would be on the shows with us. So I knew them, and I knew they have a guy named Justice Butler. He's the drummer and their music director. So me and him got kind of close, and that was mainly my association with the Manhattans.
And next we have R. Kelly. What's your thoughts about working with him?
Well, I started out with him before he got signed. I was the music director at the Regal Theater on 79th Street in Chicago, the new Regal Theater. And this was in the 90s. And they would have an amateur talent show once a month. So people would come and audition for the show. And if they make the audition, then they would send them over to me, and then I would get their song and everything and edit it down for the show and write the music out for the band to play behind them. So at the time, I didn't know, neither did R. Kelly know that I was, or Rob is what I call him. We used to play basketball together, but neither one of us knew that we were in music at the time. So he came up to the theater and auditioned for the show. The talent show made it, of course. So he comes in the room where I'm at, and he sees me, and he looks at me, man, what are you doing in here? I'm like, what are you doing in here? So then I told him, I'm the music director for this theater. So, I have to get your song and edit it down to the time limit of each song and give it back to you, and then write it out for the band. So he's like, oh, wow, that's good. That's cool, So that's how we met musically. But we knew each other from playing basketball.
Right.
And
right.
So he came and he did the talent show. And he actually, first time he was in the show, he didn't win. But he came back with a group called R. Kelly and MGM. And they won that show. Then they went from that show to Natalie Cole Big Break and won that. And then after that, and when he would always come to the Regal talent shows all the time too, just to watch them, and he enjoyed it. So he told me, he said, man, when I blow up, I'm gonna come back and get you. You're gonna be my music director. So, I'm like, hey, no problem. People tell you that kind of stuff all the time. And it never happens, you know, in most cases. But in this case, he actually got signed and blew up, and he came back and got me to be his music director. And so that began my me working with him. But even before that, I had a studio at the house that he would come by sometimes working on songs and record them in my studio. And so we developed a relationship over the years. And so when we started going on tour with him, I put the band together, his first band together, and we toured. The first tour was with Gerald Levert and Glenn Jones, and we went on that tour. And he really performed well live, and he made Gerald and Glenn work every night because he brought it. And even Gerald said that at the end of the tour, you know, he was on stage and he thanked R. Kelly for making him work hard every night. But I guess the best thing about him was that he is a musical genius. I mean, he could put a whole show together in his head. And he wrote nothing down. This is all in his head. When we come into rehearsal, and he would go song by song and putting his show together and putting everything, how we're going to go from one song to the next song, the lights, the sound, everything, special effects. He had it all in his head. And he would start, and when we get to the end of the show, when you finish, the show would be done. I mean, a great show, just a dynamic show. So he was very good at that. And musically, he found his niche as R. Kelly. But he was a lot more talented. Musically, he had a lot more going on than a lot of people know. Because he could play a little piano and he could write, you know, he could write his butt off. I mean, he was a phenomenal writer and producer, as we see in all his over his career, all the great songs he wrote and produced for himself and other artists. So in that respect, it was a good thing. And, you know, of course, he's having his troubles now. And, you know, I'm sorry about that, you know, but you know, what can you say? There's nothing I can say or do about that. I was working with him musically, and I did my job musically, and that's what I was his music director, and everything, you know, was fine as far as my relationship with him. But you know, all the other extracurricular stuff that's got him in the position he's in now, I wasn't around all of that, and for a good reason. I mean, I was older than him, so there was really no need for me to hang with them because I was too old and mature to be running around trying to be a hip hopper. You know, that wasn't me.
Right.
And my whole experience with him was professionally and musically, and I kept it there, and I'm glad I did.
Okay, I'm glad you did too. Let's go to Marshall Titus. Marshall Titus is also, you know, you work together. You're a friend of his because he was on this show a few weeks ago, and I said to him that I know you work with Keith Henderson, and I simply said the word just, you know, the guitarist Keith Henderson, and he said, "Oh no, he's much more than that. He's much more than that. He's this, he's this, he's that, he's that." So anyway, talk to me about Marshall Titus and the project that you guys did together.
Um, well, I've been knowing Marshall a long time, and I work with him quite a bit, and he actually I did a play with him as well, and he was acting in the play, you know, and singing, of course, and after the play, I had just bought a new recording setup, which was Pro Tools. I just got my Pro Tools set up. So he called me one day and asked me if I could help him record his first CD. And I agreed to do it because I needed to learn how to run my Pro Tools setup. I figured that would be a good place to start. And we did his first CD, and it turned out. I think it turned out very well for us. His first project and my first project on my new Pro Tools setup. So that was a good creative time because he would come by my studio and we would just work every day, until we got the CD done. It was a very rigorous process because he was trying to get it done. And me too. I want to get it done and learn my Pro Tools system. But he's always been a great songwriter, producer, and vocalist as well. And of course, he lives in Germany now. And he moved over to Germany, and he's doing well over there from what I see.
Right. So I always ask this question, who inspired you? I know the guys in the neighborhood sort of said he's a guitar player, whatever, but who sort of set you down like, you've got a real gift here. You need to nurture this.
Well, nobody really did that because in that respect, I inspired myself because I loved it that much. When I first started with my buddies, there's some of them would still be playing baseball and going out, hanging out and all that. And I would be in the house all the time practicing because I love music, playing my guitar. But who actually made me become interested in and wanting to be a guitar player was Tito Jackson. Rest in peace. We just lost him. Yeah, we just lost him. But the Jackson 5 were a major influence on me and my buddies. We were trying to be the Jackson 5. And Tito Jackson is the reason I started playing guitar.
I never knew that. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. And the Jackson 5 influenced a lot of musicians, a lot of artists, period. Everybody wanted to be like the Jackson 5, and we were young, so, they were in our peer group. So that's strange enough. That's the reason I play guitar today was Tito Jackson. I chose to play guitar.
Excellent. Excellent. I had the pleasure of attending your concert this summer at the Columbus Park Refectory. It was the opening night of the series of summer concerts sponsored by Chicago West Community Music Center and the Night Out in the Parks. You had a secret weapon, I believe you described it as. She was a talented female singer. I loved her rendition of You're Number One in my book. Tell us about her.
Okay, that's Jacqueline Brown.
Jacqueline Brown, yes.
Yes. And she's an awesome singer. And she's what I call a natural singer. And she connects with the audience very well because of that. Because they could feel the natural thing coming from you as an artist, period, musician, singer, whatever. So she has that thing about her that people really love. And of course, she's my wife. So I mean, what else could I?
Okay.
That so I love the music part of her, and I love the relationship part of it. So it's a good combination and it works well with us. And but she's very, very just a natural, natural. You know, it's and you can get people that are very sound technically, but they may not have that thing that most people that have it naturally have. They can just touch the audience, you know, just from their approach and how they go about it, because it's not contrived or preconceived. You know, it just comes out the way it is, and they have that natural ability to deliver to the audience and really capture the audience's attention.
Yes, yes. Now, you know, you are a music master. You've done so many things. You've lasted so long. Can you share any advice for aspiring singers, musicians, anyone who's interested in the music industry?
Well, the best advice I can give is never be afraid to be you. Be yourself. Because a lot of us tend to hear other people and or find other people that we like and kind of mold ourselves close to them. Whereas there's nothing wrong with listening to other people and taking things from them, because we all do this, and utilize them to become our own self. So, you know, I pick different things from different people and add it to what I do, and then I use my approach to convey it to people, and that creates my sound. But sometimes people will follow or try to sound too much like another person that's already successful and that's out there. But that's their sound, that's their legacy. You know, find your own sound and your own legacy and stick with it. You know, don't be afraid to be you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. It was so much fun. But before we close, I want to send out a little quick shout out to Howard Sandifer and his wife, Darlene Sandifer. This whole video podcast is their idea. As you know, they are the founders of the Chicago West Community Music Center, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. But this whole podcast was like a way to branch out and let's get to know some of our favorite newsmakers. So here we are today. Thank you to Keith Henderson. Thank you to the Sandifers. And thank you to the viewers who tune in every week to see us on YouTube. So thank you. And see you next week.
I would like to thank Howard too. I've known Howard a long time, and what him and his wife are doing is a real great thing. You know, it's needed, and they do it because that's what they want to do, not because they have to do it or they're making a whole lot of money doing it. They just do it because they love it and it's needed, and that's a big thing.
Absolutely.